Hello, everyone. I'm supposed to stay under 10 minutes. Probably not going to happen, but I still want to try. So, to get us started, if you missed it, the EU passed a law last year called the Digital Market Act, which requires Apple to allow side loading of apps by 2024. What that means is you should be able to install an app without going to the App Store if you're on iOS. The deadline, March 2024, doesn't really match with Apple's release cycle, so it's expected to be introduced earlier with iOS 17, which should be due September of this year. I would say let's be careful about that, because if you remember, CPPs were announced for iOS 15. I dare anyone to show me a CPP that was released in September of last year. But the other thing is we don't know if it will be only for EU countries or everywhere. But that doesn't really matter, because if you look at the numbers I pulled for this slide, the EU as an iOS market is already massive. And that means that there's a lot of companies thinking, well, what about creating not just a way to download our app, but building an entire app stores. So these are your most likely suspects. One has officially said it. It's Xbox, or rather Microsoft. And that's because they're trying to merge with Activision Blizzard, which also owns King. And that's something they said in a case they have for the merger. The others have not said they will enter, but we have a couple that basically build a third-party store for Android already. Epic Games has notoriously been fighting against Apple. Steam, to me, makes a lot of sense, and we know there's a lot of interest in gaming especially. And then Meta was a name suggested by Eric Seufert, which I found extremely interesting because, hey, maybe Mark Zuckerberg wants to get back at Apple for the whole ATT thing, you know. But so when you look at these names, and I'm sure we could add more, the main question for me is, why would they want to build a third-party store in the end? And that's where I will say there are what is probably wrong motivation. First one is we want to get rid of the 30% in-app purchase commission. That sounds great for you guys, right? Only question is, if you get rid of the 30%, is it just like, let's say Epic Games says, oh, well, now Fortnite won't have to pay Apple, but we'll get 30% from everyone else? Do we lower the commission? And if we do it, actually, who gets the money from not having to pay as high commission as with Apple? Another idea, this is definitely if Facebook goes for it. Thomas explained how the Apple reached 50% market share with search ads was wrong, but still, search ads is really growing, so how about building your own search ads? Sounds great. Also, in general, how will ATT apply if you own the store? These are great reasons for other people, but when it comes to developers, the question is still like, how is it going to affect you? And that's where I like to go back to the basics and ask, well, that's great for industry people. We haven't even talked about consumers yet. So what do we need from app stores as consumers? First, we need them to help us discover apps. Second, we need them to define policies for the information. I think not many people want to design an app store page now. It's become quite useful to have a template. We can complain about not having the real estate we want for screenshots, etc. But having one standardized template is a key element of an app store. Third, they're supposed to ensure safety. I'm sure we can argue about how well it's done by Apple or Google, but it's still part of the mission. And there's definitely a question of if someone else creates an app store, will they do better? And fourth, for us in the room, we kind of want them to give us more marketing opportunities. So at this point, the question is, if you're approached by someone saying, hey, we're building on our own store, we want you to build an app for our store, what are you going to ask them about? Well, in my opinion, you should ask them, what are you going to do as an app store? Another thing is going to be what will make you special. So here comes a real challenge with any third-party store, and the reason why I don't think it's going to work, at least not just yet. If you think about the value of an app store, it increases for every single user that joins the store. For developers, well, we want to see more users in the store because we want to reach more people. For consumers, we want to see more apps. And so if we go back to the whole idea that, hey, a new app store will help us get rid of the 30% or avoid the ATT part by having a single ID to advertise, all these things mean we would be headed for walled gardens. Even the exclusivity side, like, it's going to be great if there's a way to download Fortnite again, right? But the problem is, if you have to go to a different store for Fortnite, there's still going to be games where you have to go somewhere else, and that means that we'll never have pure economic value. It's going to be suboptimal, and that's when we're going to end up mostly saying, well, it looked cool, we tried it, we had some wins, but in a way, we still do most of ASO, most of our campaigns, everything for the App Store. So what do we expect for next year? Honestly, I'm sure many announcements, like, let's be honest, it's going to be a hot topic and we'll want to talk about it. I don't think we'll see that many entrants so early. It will take time. We need to see what Apple's going to do about it, because if you look at what they've been doing when forced to lower the commission, they have definitely reasons to say we're still going to get money even if you don't go to the App Store. And then we'll see also what states do, what the EU does again, etc. For what you can do when you're going to be told about a new store, number one, look at what they're telling you. Look at how it's better in terms of terms and conditions, in terms of fees. And make sure you state your interest in what should a store be for you. Second is check also about what will be the benefits for users, because if someone promises you great things, but there's literally no reason for a user to switch to that store, investing a lot of resources to migrate there only to find that 100 people downloaded that store in the first month is going to be really disappointing. Third one is talk to Apple and Google. Good news with this change is just that Apple and Google are going to have to pay attention to, hey, these guys are building a store and they're telling us we'll have this. So maybe we can apply a little bit of pressure and get Apple and Google to build more feedback-based features for the stores. Now, I did want to bring a somewhat crazy idea, but I found when studying network goods that there was an ideal we should discuss as an industry. And that ideal is to say, what if we could have a single app store? And actually, what that would mean is, instead of having to go to different stores and to have to go to more than 2 stores now, maybe what should be discussed as well is building an app store framework, which would be a single place where we can list apps with people dedicated to it. And that framework could be licensed to any phone manufacturer. We know that so far, most of the people who've built third-party stores are phone manufacturers. So if we told them, hey, here's an app store you can use, you just give us a licensing fee, and you're free to add search ads to it in any way you want or any other way, that could be a way to go back to the optimal way of having app stores. So I hope this will have helped you kind of realize what are the dynamics between what we do every day. And I want to give a shout out to the App Fairness Coalition, because it's a small group of developers. I don't know if they're thinking about it, but if they're in the room, I do want them to hear this. And thank you for listening to me.